Gamers! Hello everybody, welcome to an Offbeat Outlaw power build video. It's been a long goddamn time since I made one of these. Reason being, I made a lot of builds. There's a lot of builds out there, obviously. There's so many combinations of classes, but as far as I'm concerned, there's only a few builds that I actually am interested in making. We start with the most annoying D&D character ever who just makes a bunch of attack rolls. We've got the most powerful D&D character ever doing 300 damage, which is so cute. Which is adorable, isn't it? 800 damage in a single turn, which was my previous most amount of damage in a single round build. I learned how to make you huge. I taught you how to always go first. I taught you how to be almost invincible. I made a team build. I made a level 5 build. I made my favorite build, the Forever DM build. I tried to make a monk good. I made a support build. I taught you guys how to make your own builds. I've made a fear-based build. I made a debuff build. I made a character that hits 200 damage in a single hit. I made a massive fireball, and I made the most powerful bard. I'm at the awkward stage of my hair growth, where I'm just like, I've got this ponytail, and nothing I do with my hair makes me happy. I just look disheveled, and my forehead is massive, you know? Anyway, I've made a lot of D&D builds. The way I make builds has always been very different from how many make builds. A lot of people focus on the theming first and then will build to match the theming. I do it in the reverse. I make the build and then I theme it afterwards, because to me, theming is just flavor. It's just spice. It's just whatever. I can just toss that in there afterward. What matters is how they play, and that's what I focus on, and I've made a lot of builds already that play in very interesting and unique ways. There is one final build that I haven't done, and it's variants. And that is what we're going to go through today. This is, in my opinion, in a lot of ways, it is the most powerful build in the game. I think it is incredibly versatile. I think it is incredibly strong. It's so wide, and you can build it so specific that it ends up being the strongest build in the game. Today, we're going to be talking about the Nuclear Wizard. Let's go get my characters. Well, I'm gonna show you the variant that does the most damage, and then I'll show you variants with more flexibility. So, starting off with the race, many races work for this. This is part of what makes it so flexible, is that there are actually a couple races that work. I take variant human just because the free feat is incredibly valuable at level 1. You're gonna want to pump your intelligence and your dexterity. Those are your main ability scores of choice. Your skills, it doesn't matter. I prefer Arcana. And our free feat, because we're a variant human. There are many options, but we're going to be starting as a wizard, so I typically recommend taking Resilient or Warcaster. If you're starting off in a campaign and you're trying to play this from level 1, I would suggest taking Warcaster. If you're starting this off and you're at a higher level, by about a level, I think 12, it's more important to take Resilient. We're going to be getting both at the end of the day anyway, but you know, it's all, the choice is yours. So here we are starting. Class, we start with Wizard. Now, if we're doing the most damage in a single turn, the best way to deal the most damage is to deal the most hits. And if you're dealing the most hits, that means you're taking Scorching Ray. And if you're taking Scorching Ray, the best way to abuse that is Spirit Shroud. And if you're doing all that shit, if you're trying to do the most damage, we're gonna take level 17 Wizard. Now, if you're playing this in a campaign, just play as a wizard until level 5, then take 2 fighter, and then just keep playing as a wizard. You'll get it. You'll understand. It's pretty simple. Who cares what skills we take? We take Insight, though, and we take, let's take History, because History is funny for me. Arcane Tradition. We're taking Evocation. Our ability score improvement. We are taking Intelligence. We're taking Intelligence. Wait, we should probably figure out our stats. Intelligence up, Dex up, Con up. Boom. We have 3 more ability score improvements. So we take Intelligence here. We take Resilient here, take Constitution. The reason why we're so focused on Constitution and Warcaster is because it's all about concentration saving throws. As you reach higher and higher levels, your concentration is going to be getting assaulted from all sides all the time. It is not uncommon to be hit with 70 plus damage in a single round, meaning that you'd have to make a concentration save of 45. So we need to have good con and we need to have proficiency in that, as well as having Warcaster to make sure that we're getting value out of our concentration concentration spells. In this case, we're focusing on Spirit Shroud. Final ability score improvement. We can go many options here. Our intelligence is max. We can either pump it into con or pump it into dexterity, or we can bring up one of our weaker stats in one of the other areas. In my opinion, I would suggest, I like taking, in this case, the ability score improvement, pumping dexterity, just because we want to have a pretty high AC as well, especially if we're using mage armor, which is, in my opinion, the most flexible way to do this. But if you get magic items, anything's on the table. Next up, we're going to add another class. As you can see, all right, I did this wrong. Whoops. I lied at the beginning, by the way. We're not taking a 17 wizard. We're taking 18 in wizard. This is, in my opinion, the most flexible because we get spell mastery, which means you can cast a first level spell and a second level spell. You get to pick two that cost no spell slots. Like, the amount of versatility that you get is actually insane. It is super powerful. And then finally, we just add 2 more levels of fighter. This is the baseline of the build in every single campaign that you could play. 18 wizard, 2 fighter. It's so versatile, it's so powerful, it can be almost anything that you need it to be. And I know what you're thinking, this doesn't look incredibly versatile from the get-go, but the fact of the matter is, I've made it evocation. This could be a Bladesinger. This could be divination. This could be necromancer, meaning you're focusing on summons but can still do a lot of stuff. The amount of versatility that just being a big fuck-off wizard gives you is insane. The 2 levels of fighter is for action surge and for your armor proficiencies. Armor proficiencies are super good. If you don't feel like heavily investing in mage armor, you can just get a breastplate and pick up a shield in your offhand, and now you cast shield the spell and get a crazy high armor class every single round. And if shield is one of your signature spells, you're good to fucking go. But spells, I'm only showing you the baseline shit, so I'm just gonna take the stuff that we need. Keep in mind, at this level, you're a level 18 wizard. So that means at level 1, you get 6 spells, and then for every level after that, you get 2 more spells. So that is going to round out to 40 spells known. 40. 6 at level 1 plus 34, 2 per level. We can only prepare 23. We can only prepare half of those. But the amount of versatility that gives you between your days is astronomical. And we can also change our cantrips on rests. Wizard is by far the strongest class in the game, just based off of the amount of problems that it solves. We take Firebolt as one of our cantrips though, and we do take Shocking Grasp. There's something that I think a lot of people don't understand when I mention that like the wizard is the strongest class in the game. I think a lot of people don't like hearing those words as like strongest class because there's so many different ways to value strength in this game. And you're partly correct. There are many ways to value strength in this game, and campaign to campaign, it's always going to be different. If you're in a campaign where for whatever reason magic items are abundant as shit, the marshals are going to take a slight edge because they just have some access to more magic items. There are more magic items on average geared towards marshals. Because of that fact, there are so many different ways that things can play out. However, the way how I quantify the wizard being the strongest is that on average, for most campaigns, in most situations, in most scenarios, the wizard can solve the problem. If there is a puzzle, the wizard will have a spell for it. If there is an enemy, a wizard will have a spell for it. It has little to do with actual strength and much, much, much more to do with the ability to solve and interact with the world around it. If you're a barbarian, all you can do is punch shit and break shit. And let's be honest, not every problem is breakable. Wizards just have that versatility over all the other classes. And you're going to see, as I break down these different versions of this build, the strength that allows. So we're back here. We're back in picking our spells. A lot of spells don't matter at this level, and once you reach high level, like a lot of these are kind of pointless. Like, who's using distort value? Really? I know you can, but like, some of these are incredibly important. Absorb elements, for example. It's part of the defensive suite, I call it. These are spells that are just gonna make your wizard much, much, much more tanky. And keep in mind, you pick these up at level 1. You should never die as a wizard at level 1. You are so goddamn tanky. A level 1 wizard is one of the tankiest classes in the game. If you pick the right spells, that is. We take Find Familiar here. We take Silvery Barbs, one of the best anti-critical hit abilities in the game. Shield, another great spell. So we've taken 4 in case you can't tell. We take Mage Armor, and now the last one is for fun. Whatever you take here is fine, but you should note that now we have Absorb Elements, Silvery Barbs, Shield, Mage Armor. These 4 spells are the defensive suite. They hold this title of being the defensive suite because if ever you're hit, you're going to need these spells. With mage armor and with our 18 dexterity, we have roughly a 17 armor class at base, which isn't amazing, but it's pretty damn good. With shield, that bumps that all the way up to a 22. Keep in mind though, we have medium armor proficiency and proficiency with shields, which means we're going to be picking up a shield. Realistically, our armor is a 19. If we're at this level, we might not even need that. We can just get a breastplate, and now our armor class is a 20 at base, and then we can still cast shield, getting it to a 25. As you can see, a 25 armor class is pretty damn good, and there are of course ways to get that even higher. Everyone always talks about magic items. My builds can use magic items too. Okay? For some reason, because I don't mention them, everyone kind of forgets, I feel, that my builds can also use the magic items that you mention. I don't know. My comment section's weird. It's like they forget things. But anyway, before some smart aleck comes in and goes,
my paladin with magic items had a higher AC.
If we were to give a very rare shield to this wizard and gave them a rare piece of breastplate, they would have an armor class at base of 24. With shield, that's a 29. That is 2 magic items that require no attunement. Now, I'm not bringing these up as like, look how crazy this is. I'm bringing this up because if anyone else brings up magic items, I want you to know I can use them too. I'm not, because it's pointless to compare. I'm just bringing it up so I don't get stupid. Now, a lot of spells at second level aren't that important. However, one of these is going to be our signature spell. And in my opinion, there is no better signature spell than Vortex Warp. Now, this might sound a little weird. Why Vortex Warp? Aren't there other really good second level spells? Yes, there are. Web is a second level spell, for God's sakes. Misty Step is a second level spell. Vortex Warp is really good for a number of reasons, and that's because you can teleport other people, which means you can not only reposition, if you have your simulacrum, which I'll tell you how to get really easily every single day, you can use your simulacrum to reposition yourself, or you can reposition your allies to get them into better positions. One of the big problems with martial characters at high level is their lack of mobility without magic items. So if their, for whatever reason, kit is not built towards flight, you can teleport them to platforms to enable them, meaning that you can be a really good support player as well. And that is before we've even added, of course, the damage. And there's one other second level spell we need. We need Scorching Ray. Oh, Scorching Ray! There you are. Hello, my son. And at third level, we take... where is the one, the only, the most busted spell in the game, Spirit Shroud. Now, before you go in the comments and misquote Pack Tactics videos at me, I watch Pack Tactics.
They make good content. Don't misquote this.
At level 5, Spirit Shroud is a trap. When you finally get Spirit Shroud available to you, it is a trap of a spell that you shouldn't be using.
It's a trap!
There are much better things to concentrate on at level 5. However, as you reach higher and higher levels, a lot more of your problems become a lot more resistant to the things that you'd normally be concentrating on. Things like Hold Person, Hold Monster, Charm Monster, Dominate Monster, Hypnotic Pattern, Slow. There's a lot of great spells at this level that start to become less and less useful, especially with legendary resistances. That is when Spirit Shroud becomes powerful, is at the higher levels of play. So that's why we take it. At level 5, Spirit Shroud's a trap. Just dip into Warlock and get Hex, okay? If you're playing at high level though, Spirit Shroud is one of the most abusable spells in the game, and you are a fool if you don't take it. And that is because of the fact that you can upcast it. When you cast a spell using a spell slot of 4th or higher, the damage increases by 1d8 for every 2 slots above 3rd. That means by 5th level, you're dealing 2d8 per hit. By 7th, you're dealing 3d8 per hit. By 9th, you'd be dealing 4d8 per hit, but we're not gonna do that. And with that, that's all we really need, except for one last spell. In the 9th level spells, we take Wish. Wish is how we're getting our Simulacrum every time. It's super easy to do. You just cast Wish as an action. You use that Wish spell to cast Simulacrum. You get a Simulacrum. The Simulacrum has been cast. You get 1 per day. It's easy. There's no backlash for casting an 8th level spell with Wish. You only get the backlash if you're doing it for something other than replicating spell effects. If you're replicating spell effects, Wish has no backlash. Check the link in the description, whatever the fuck the description is nowadays, for other ways to use Wish in really, really powerful manners. I've made a whole video breakdowning some of the best ways you can utilize Wish at high level. But with that being said, this is the build. And as I mentioned before, this is the highest damage variant of the build. Now, the reason why we are specifically an evocation wizard, this is, in my opinion, the highest damage variant of the build and the most efficient variant, in my opinion. Let's just quickly prepare all the spells that we need. Let's quickly add some mundane equipment. By this level, you should very easily be able to get this stuff. Like, you can just purchase a breastplate. This is just a standard breastplate and then a breast and then a shield. This is a standard shield. You should be able to get this very easily and it does not affect you whatsoever. Okay, cool. Our armor class is 18. This is pretty damn good. For being a quote-unquote squishy wizard, we're looking pretty damn not squishy, especially with the spell Shield, which gives you a +5 to your armor class upon casting, which we can cast for free because it's our spell mastery. That is a +5 bonus to the AC. That is a 23 AC, basically all day. Very, very strong, very powerful in my opinion. And now let's teach you how to get crazy damage numbers like you saw in the thumbnail of the video. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be utilizing a feature from the evocation wizard called Overchannel. When you cast a wizard spell of 1st through 5th level that deals damage, you can deal maximum damage with that spell. If you use this feature again before you finish a long rest, you take 2d12 necrotic damage per use. The damage ignores resistances and immunity. Overchannel, it works on any spell that deals damage. This means we can use it on Spirit Shroud because Spirit Shroud deals damage. It's not a summon. The spell itself that you cast is dealing damage. You can use this on Hex. You can use this on any spell so long as the spell itself deals damage. Spirit Shroud being such a spell. And with that in mind, we'll be using our 9th level spell slot to cast Wish, giving ourselves a Simulacrum. When you do this at the beginning of the day, don't do this mid-fight if possible. Try to avoid doing this mid-combat. Do it at the beginning of the day. It has half your hit points, but it has double your resources. Keep a spare arcane focus on you at all times to hand over to your stupid Simulacrum. Next thing you do, at the start of combat, you overchannel Spirit Shroud. You cast it at 5th level. This means that you've got 2d6 that are maxed on every single one of your hits. That is 16 damage per hit. Okay, you and your Simulacrum are both going to do this. Then, as your action, you're going to cast Firebolt or Shocking Grasp. Those are cantrips, okay? This damage is pretty mediocre. It's pretty okay. You can calc it if you want. I'm not gonna. But I usually recommend Shocking Grasp as that enables you to steal their reaction, meaning that they can't cast counter spells or anything like that until the start of your next turn. Or until the start of their next turn, I believe. Next turn, you're going to cast Scorching Ray at 8th and 7th level, respectively, from both you and your Simulacrum. And you're gonna cast both of these spells in the same turn using Action Surge. Now, before I get this comment in my comment section again, I know what's about to happen. You're about to tell me that I can't cast 2 leveled spells in a turn, and you're gonna misquote a rule at me from the player's handbook. Page 202, the bonus action clause. And this is what it reads. It says bonus action on top of it. A spell cast with a bonus action is especially swift. You must use your bonus action on your turn to cast the spell, provided that you haven't already taken a bonus action this turn. You can't cast another spell during the same turn, except for a cantrip with a casting time of 1 action. What this is saying is if you cast a spell as a bonus action on your turn, you cannot cast another spell on your turn unless it's a cantrip for an action. That is any bonus action spell. That is a cantrip. If you cast a spell as a bonus action, that's no action. This makes no claim on actions at all. This isn't even talking about actions. And if you disagree with me, go to Jeremy Crawford's Twitter. We've been over this, okay? It's on there. And if you're really concerned, go to page 202 of your player's handbook and bang it over your head until you get it right. Okay, so now we got that over with. We're casting a Scorching Ray of 8th and 7th level respectively. Let's just mark those off. 8th and 7th level. A Scorching Ray of 8th level shoots 9 beams. A Scorching Ray of 7th level shoots 8 beams. You and your Simulacrum are both doing this. That is 17 beams per person, meaning 34 attack rolls in total between you and your Simulacrum by turn 2. So, if you're wondering at home how much damage, what that looks like, and remember, we overchanneled the Spirit Shroud, meaning that is just going to be adding a flat plus 16 per hit. That's going to be 68 d6 for an average of 238 damage. Adding on to that, the 16 times 34 for a total of 782 damage. And if you're wondering how many dice that is, let's just show you in D&D Beyond real quick. 68 D6s, and this is 68 D8s. Remember, these D8s technically wouldn't be rolled. You're just rolling max on these, so you don't need to roll them. So this average is going to be lower than what I just said of 730 something. 544. So between you and your simulacrum, you're dealing an average of 782 damage. Now, I'm no expert, but that kills everything in the monster manual. Discounting the Tarrasque would be reflecting those beams back at you, of course. But if that thing has hit points, and it isn't just immune to your spells, probably dead. Starting with a base of 782 damage is a lot to start with for an unoptimized version of this build. This build is just versatile from the get-go. We're not even heavily invested in dealing damage. We just can do this on the side. I still have 30 more spells to pick. I can pick entirely summons or illusion magic from here on out and still be powerful enough to deal 782 damage. There is so much versatility here, but let's optimize a little. So rather than going 18 in Wizard and getting free Vortex Warps, we're going 17 Wizard. Rather than pumping Constitution, we're going to need to get a little bit into Charisma, because we're going to be adding in the Warlock class. We're adding 1 level of Warlock to get the Hexblade Patron. Now, the reason for this is because we want Hexblade's Curse. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do all of that math again, all of that again, but this time we're adding Hexblade's Curse. So your turn order is, your Simulacrum was cast earlier in the day, okay? We don't count that. You do that as soon as you wake up. You know you cast Mage Armor when you wake up? You also cast Simulacrum now. He's your buddy, he's your best friend, he's your Rotten Soldier. Turn 1, Overchannel Spirit Shroud again. That's gonna be 5th level. Yippee. And then you Shock and Grass to protect yourself or whatever. Next turn, bonus action, Hexblade's Curse your target. And then we once again do our 7th and 8th level spells on Scorching Ray to make 34 attack rolls. So if you remember from last time, that is 68 D6s, which averages to 238 damage, plus 16 times 34 from the Overchanneled Spirit Shroud, which equals 782 damage, plus 6 times 34 from the Hexblade's Curse for 986 damage. Additionally, there's something I actually forgot to add. Empowered Evocation. We get to add our intelligence modifier twice to this because we're casting 4 spells in total with Action Surge between us and our Simulacrum. By taking a 1 level dip into Warlock, we went from 782, which should have technically been 802 damage, to 1006 damage. Crazy. And for those who are asking, what about the armor classes? Okay. You can do the armor class calc yourself. I've got plus 11 to hit, which is the highest to hit chance we can get without magic items. Okay? Other than by adding advantage and shit, which frankly we don't care about. We don't even really need to do. We're making 34 attack rolls. If we're aiming at a target with a 21 AC, that means we're hitting half of their shots, which means we're dealing about 50% of the damage we would with this calculation. That's still 500 and something fuck off damage. I don't know what else to say. If you don't think that's good, I don't care. I don't want to listen to you. I'm not playing in your game. And this is all through just using Scorching Ray and Spirit Shroud. These 2 spells alone are the cornerstone of high-level D&D play. But this is, of course, only another variant. Let's change things up again. Let's remove the Warlock level, because we don't really care for that. And if you find that you're being a little bit too squishy, all you gotta do is change yourself from School of Evocation to Blade Singing. Blade Singing is crazy. Give yourself a Rapier. We take Vortex Warp again. We give ourselves Shield or Silvery Barbs. So let's take Silvery Barbs for argument's sake. Abilities. We dump Charisma again. We pump Con. We get more hit points. And here we are again. We quickly just add an item. So I've added a homebrew item. This homebrew item just enables me to show you guys the effect of Blade Singing. So watch this. When I put this on, my armor class shoots up to 23. Now you can't be wearing armor at all, but that's fine because we're gonna add another thing. Boom, Mage Armor. Wow. This is our base armor with Blade Song and Mage Armor. 22. With Shield, that's a 27. And this version can still pump out crazy damage because remember, we're still dealing about 500 damage in a single round with a Scorching Ray and Spirit Shroud combo. And with this version as well, we can afford to be a little bit more reckless and do a 7th level Spirit Shroud because look at our Constitution. That is our concentration saving throw modifier. We have advantage to maintain concentration, and we've added our intelligence modifier to this, meaning we can make saves on many spells that hit us. We can use a high level spell slot on Spirit Shroud to deal 3d8 extra damage per hit, meaning that if we use Scorching Ray, Action Surge, Scorching Ray, we're going to be doing an 8th and a 6th. So that's a 7 plus 9, that's 16. 16 times 4, 16 times 2, which means we're going to be 32 attacks in a single round. 32 times 3 is 96, times 4.5 is 432. That's the Spirit Shroud damage. Plus 64 times 3.5, 656 damage for the Scorching Ray Spirit Shroud damage. Boom, that's the average. That's the average amount that you're dealing with this combo. And you're still a full wizard, and you're incredibly tanky. And with your features and traits, you have this ability, Song of Defense. While your Blade Song is active, you can use your reaction to expend a spell slot and reduce the damage to you by an amount equal to 5 times the spell slot's level. That's crazy. So if you get hit with a 70 damage breath weapon from a dragon, you can reduce that and you fail your dex save. You could use Song of Defense to reduce the damage, but it's probably an elemental type. It's probably fire damage. So you just cast Absorb Elements. The damage is halved to 35 now. That means the saving throw DC for your concentration is 17. You have a plus 14 to concentration. You're making that save. So you can just cast a big spell like that. You could cast even bigger spells. You could cast Maze and just remove someone from the fight entirely. You could cast Force Cage on an opponent. That's not even concentration. Like, you just can't do that. But at the same time, you can deal 656 damage. And this is, once again, not optimized to do damage. This is 2 spells. I have made 2 choices that enable us to deal this much damage. 3 if you count dipping into fighter. This build is powerful. It is versatile. It is incredibly strong, and that is why I'm crowning this. Any wizard with a dip in fighter, with Scorching Ray and Spirit Shroud as the most powerful build in the game. The most powerful starting base, because you can turn this build into anything and deal a fuckload of damage at the same time. There is not a single creature in the standard monster manual that can survive an assault from this thing. You will kill it in 2 rounds. None of the Demon Lords can survive an assault from this thing. This guy versus a Demon Lord, this guy wins every time. Because first of all, there's 2 of the fucker, and their AC is high, and they're having all elemental damage, and they can just reduce damage with Song of Defense. This build is insane. It is easily the strongest build combination in D&D with the combination of these 2 spells. I think the thing I'm trying to communicate here is that these 2 spells, yes, deal damage. But that's only 2 of your, like I said, 40 options. It only took 2 options to be the highest damaging build in the game. You have 38 more choices to make that enable you to be something else too. You can deal a metric fuck ton of damage and be incredibly versatile. And be a illusion wizard. And be incredibly tricky, and be incredibly manipulative behind the scenes. There's so many things you can do with this build that this enables you to do. And that is why the Nuclear Wizard is the crown jewel of D&D builds. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you had an amazing time watching this. I hope you had fun. If you didn't, go fuck yourself. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to show your friends. Show your dungeon master. You know what? I want to issue my followers a challenge. Anybody who can convince their DM to do a one-shot and you build this character, record their reaction to you doing the damage combination. I want to see it. I want to see what happens. If you do, make sure to tag me in the video or whatever, or share it, or hashtag Offbeat Outlaw. I want to see what happens. Anyway, that is all for today. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a fantastic day and get the fuck out of my house.